I was standing in the marble foyer, clutching keys that still felt warm from the realtor's hand, when my phone lit up with a message from my father. Wire the $4 million by Friday. Mia already picked the fixtures. My name is Alexia. I'm 28. The echo of this new mansion answered back like it was laughing for me. I took a picture of the curved staircase and replied with a single photo and 6 words. Already spent it. I bought this. His typing dots came and went. Then, you did what? I didn't call. I didn't apologize. I pressed my thumb to the cool brass banister and listened to my own breath steady in this cathedral of a house I had purchased instead of financing my dad's new wife's dream home. The stakes? Every dollar I had earned, every boundary I had left, and the only family I'd ever known. And by Saturday, everyone would know. Quick one before I go on. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. I paced the entryway and said it out loud, just to test if my voice would crack. I'm not paying for Mia's house. It didn't crack. It rang. And because I'm stubborn, and because revenge tastes better when it's slow, I opened a bottle of cheap grocery store Prosecco in a crystal kitchen that came with its own climate-controlled pantry and a view of the hills. I toasted the woman I was 6 months ago, and the one I'd become today. I didn't buy this place to show off. I bought it to stop something rotten. Back up. My father remarried 2 years after my mother died. Mia arrived soft-voiced, in beige sweaters and ballet flats, all tact and tea and, "Sweetie, tell me everything." She made my dad laugh again. She cried the first time she looked through Mom's photo albums, like grief had grafted her into the family tree. I wanted to believe in second chances. I wanted my dad to have one. But months into the marriage, Mia started talking about fixing up the starter home my dad and I shared since I was 12. The starter home, to her, was a relic. She wanted windows that opened like eyelids and a kitchen island the size of a boat. It was only practical, she said, because my dad was getting older. She had Pinterest boards that could fund a small nation. I smiled, nodded, and kept my mouth shut because silence was my superpower and my mistake. I'm a product designer. I build subscription revenue models and software features that keep people paying. I've been the youngest person at too many conference tables. Last year, one of my apps sold quietly, cleanly, for a life-changing amount of money. The number looked like a typo when it first hit my account. I used it to pay off Mom's medical debt, the loan on my dad's truck, the last of my student loans. I put the rest into investments that didn't blink when the market did. No one, not even Dad, knew the exact figure. Mia knew the rumor, though. Mia always knows the rumor. The ask started small. Would you cover the consultant for our kitchen layout? Sure. Then came the interim contractor retainer, then an expedited inspection. Each check a little heavier, each invoice a little thinner. And then one night, over dinner, she said it like it was the weather. We found it, the house. My fork paused midair. What house? 10 acres, gated, views, perfect for grandkids. Mia smiled at my father, then at me. She'll put it in your name, honey, to keep taxes clean. You know all that. She was lying. I didn't know all that, but I knew enough about how rich people protect their assets to hear the hidden verbs: use, move, bury, own. And I also knew my name wasn't theirs to borrow. I told them I'd think. She kissed my cheek like I had already agreed. The next morning, a PDF landed in my inbox from a designer I'd never met. Alexia, per Mia's note, attaching the $4 million wiring details. Congrats. $4 million, like it was a brunch reservation. I didn't reply. I pulled receipts. I searched my email for every invoice, estimate, friendly reminder. I organized them by sender and due date. Patterns emerged. Same LLCs cycling through different names. Same address, different suites. Same expedite fee. My stomach cold. I looked up each entity in the Secretary of State database. 2 were formed last quarter. One manager's name matched a cousin Mia barely spoke to. Another traced to a mailbox store. The world tilted, then clicked. The kitchen consultant was a shell company. The retainer was a slush fund. I was paying for her net. I tried talking to my dad. He brushed it off. She's taking care of things, Lex. You know I'm not good with that. Dad, a contractor formed last month, doesn't manage million-dollar bills. You're suspicious of everyone. Your mother was like that. I swallowed the hurt, the cheap shot. Mom was careful. There's a difference. He sighed and asked me to trust his wife. That phrase hit me like a door closing. I went home and opened a fresh spreadsheet. Revenge, it turns out, has tabs. A week later, I followed a hunch to an address listed on one of invoices. It was a tan building off of Frontage Road, mostly dentists, a notary, a tax place that doubled as a passport photo booth. Suite 201 was Pacific Renovations. The door was locked. The directory had a paper label, crooked, printed in a font that came free with Windows. I took a picture. Then I noticed a camera above the hallway exit, blinking red, and a second door across the hall cracked just enough for the edge of a sneaker to show. Someone was there, watching. I left. If they were sloppy in public, they were careful where it counted. Back in my car, I checked my phone. A new message from an unknown number. You're smart. Stop digging. A minute later, another. Or wire the money. I drove to my apartment and packed a bag. I wasn't running. I was recalibrating. I booked a meeting with a realtor I trusted because she says numbers like they're facts and lies faint in her presence. We toured 3 places for research. At the third one, I felt something unlock. Not in the house, in me. The place had ridiculous light, honest floors, a view that cut through smog and worry. The realtor, sensing a pulse, said, "You move fast when you've already decided." I hadn't, but now I had. I told her to draft. Why buy instead of fight? Because leverage is a language, and I needed to speak it. Because if I controlled my money, I controlled the timeline. And because revenge is not rage, it's restraint. And because Mia's plan relied on me standing still. I kept digging while escrow ticked. I set alerts on the shell companies and watched them sprout like mushrooms. I found a wedding registry for Mia and my father, after they'd married, filled with cash funds labeled home wellness and estate planning. I clicked through guest contributions and recognized names from Dad's old poker nights, men who thought gifts were safer when they doubled as favors. I saved every screenshot, every timestamp. I also found something else. A throwaway Gmail address tied to a password reset for Stanton Advisors, an asset protection firm that bragged about keeping spouses in the dark. Their Instagram was motivational quotes on black backgrounds. Their client list was a ghost. But the domain registration bounced to a name. Mia Stanton. 2 addresses ago. My breath came shallow. I called my aunt, Mom's sister. She lowered her voice and said she'd never trusted Mia. Your dad got happy so fast, baby. Grief does that. It makes you hungry. You think the first meal is a feast. Did Mom ever... I started, and then I couldn't finish the sentence because asking if Mom ever suspected Dad of cheating felt disloyal to 2 ghosts at once. Your mother loved him, my aunt said, and he loved her, but love isn't the same thing as judgment. Escrow closed on a Thursday. I signed with a pen that cost less than the parking. I walked out with a folder and a deed that said I had made a decision no one could undo without my signature. I sent a photo of the keys to the unknown number and typed, "New address, not yours." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. A minute later, my phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. "Lex," he began, voice raw. "Mia's upset. She thinks you're overreacting. Don't do anything you can't undo." There was a pause. A clink of glass, a muffled whisper I couldn't make out. Then my father did something that made my skin cold. He hung up without saying I love you. My father never forgot that part. I replayed it twice, then put the phone face down and pressed my palms to the cool kitchen counter in the mansion that was now mine. That night, I slept on a mattress on the floor of the primary suite with the sliding doors cracked to the night air. At 2:17 a.m., I woke to the hush of tires on the private lane. A car idled. I eased to the balcony and peered through the glass. Headlights glowed, then cut. Silence. Then my phone buzzed again. A new message from the unknown number, a single sentence, and a photo. The sentence, "You don't know what you're up against." The photo, a candid shot of me at 12 in our old kitchen frosting cookies with my mother. The one photo Mom loved and never posted anywhere. It wasn't online, it wasn't in the cloud. It lived in a shoebox under my childhood bed. My heart kicked. I checked the alarm. Armed. I called the security company. They saw nothing on the perimeter. The car was gone. The message remained, sitting there like an open mouth. In the morning, I drove to the old house. I still had a key. The lawn was too neat. Mia had hired a service with a truck that loved itself. Inside, the cinnamon smell of staged cookies hit me. My mother's shoebox was under the bed where I had left it years ago, tucked behind a loose baseboard. The board was ajar. The box was empty. I closed my eyes and pictured Mia's soft voice and ballet flats, the way she'd always offered to clean up after visits, to organize the old things. She hadn't grafted herself to our grief. She'd mined it. I went to leave and nearly collided with my father in the hallway. He looked tired in a way that sleep can't fix. He opened his arms and then let them fall when I didn't move. "You scared me," he said. "I scared you. You sent someone to my house." "Or she did." He flinched. "What house?" I stared. "You called me last night, you know." "I didn't," he said. And for a second, one small, bright second, I believed him. Then his phone buzzed with a text preview I saw because he held it at the wrong angle. "Tell her to bring the money to the meeting, 4 p.m., same office." I looked up. He looked down. He swiped the message away like it was a net. "What meeting?" I asked. It's just paperwork." "For the house?" "For estate things." "Whose estate?" He didn't answer. I walked out before my anger could find a target it would regret. In the driveway, my phone buzzed again, another unknown number this time, different last digits, same nerve. "If you want the truth, record 4 p.m., Suite 201, don't let them see you." My hands were steady when I typed back, "Who is this?" No response. At 3:45 p.m., I parked 2 lots over from the tan office building with the blinking camera. I wore a cap and the kind of gray hoodie that makes you feel invisible. I tucked my hair inside, slid my phone into a case that looks like a calculator, and walked in like I belonged to the printer paper and fluorescent lights. Suite 201's door, the one that had been locked, was propped with a trash can. Inside, voices. Mia's was one, soft, certain. A man's voice, too, smooth like hotel carpet. I crouched beside the water fountain, camera on, audio rolling. "She's emotional. She'll pay. She always does." Good, because the filings are ready. If she wires it to Stanton, we route it and there's nothing to claw back. California community rules have conveniences. Mia laughed. "Don't say that word." "What word?" "Conveniences. It sounds like theft." Footsteps shifted, paper rustled, the man lowered his voice, and the prenup? Destroyed. I stopped breathing. Mia continued brightening. "He never copied it. Men love paper until it's their own." "Then we're clean," the man said. "Once the funds move, she can sue all she wants." "And if she doesn't wire?" A pause. "Then we press plan B."
A door opened deeper in the suite. Another set of steps. My father's voice, tired, smaller than I've ever heard it. "I don't want to hurt her." Mia's answer came sugar-sweet. "Baby, you're not. You're helping us start a family." My phone trembled in my hand. I'd come for proof. I'd found a script. I almost stood up then. I almost walked in and burned the whole place down with fury and facts. But revenge isn't yelling. It's timing. I backed away, kept recording, and let them talk until they said nothing but calendar days and bank names. When I got to my car, the unknown number texted again. "Check your dad's safe, left side, behind the manila envelopes." I typed, "Who are you?" This time a reply. "Someone who loved your mother." I stared at the words until they doubled. The safe, the left side. I didn't know the combination anymore. Dad had changed it, or Mia had asked him to. But I knew the man who installed it because I'd booked him after Mom's diagnosis, when we were worried about opioids and opportunists. I scrolled for his number, found it, and dialed. He remembered me. He never forgets daughters who sound like they're trying not to cry. "Same model?" he asked. "Same," I said. "Same default trick?" "Yes." "You'll need a stethoscope and 10 minutes. "I have 5, I whispered. At home, I pulled the old stethoscope from my EMT training kit. One year I thought I'd be a paramedic instead of a product lead, and drove to my father's house before I could think better. The door was locked. I knew where the spare lived. Some habits survive new wives. The safe was in his study, behind a painting of a sailboat he never sailed. I closed the door, set the stethoscope against the dial, and did what YouTube teaches you if you're patient. I listened for the soft click of tumblers aligning with a number my father would choose. I got 2 wrong. The 3rd was my mother's birthday. The 4th was mine. The safe opened to air that smelled like ink and the faintest hint of my father's aftershave. Inside, tax folders, a pocket watch, a photo of Mom in a red dress, a bundle of envelopes, and, tucked left behind Manila, a single plastic sleeve with a document inside. The title at the top in sharp serif font, Prenuptial Agreement. My heart stuttered. "Destroyed," Mia had said. "Liar." I slid the document out and skimmed until the lines sharpened. Separate property preserved, spousal support limited, no claim on premarital assets, and a clause that made my eyes sting. Anything gifted to or purchased by the child, i.e., me, remained mine under all circumstances. My name was there, my mother's handwriting crooked in the margin where she'd initialed in blue. The last page had signatures, my father's, Mia's, and the notary's stamp, dated the week before the wedding. I took photos fast, front and back, each page a lifeline. I was slipping the document back into the safe when a car door slammed outside and footsteps came hard across the porch. I froze. A key scratched the lock. The doorknob turned. The study door creaked, and the first voice I heard wasn't my father's. It was Mia's, honeyed and patient, wrapping itself around a sentence that made the hair rise on my arms. "Alexia, if you're here, sweetheart, don't hide. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Her voice slithered down the hallway before her shoes even touched the hardwood. "Alexia, sweetheart, come on out. No need for secrets between family." I pressed the prenup tighter to my chest like it was oxygen. The study's French doors reflected her faint silhouette, a woman shaped like sympathy, dressed in deceit. The doorknob twitched. I had seconds. I slid the document back into the safe, slammed the dial, spun it twice, and shoved the envelopes forward to cover my tracks. My fingers shook as I grabbed the old pocket watch and tucked it into my hoodie pocket. It would look like I'd only come back for a keepsake. The door opened. Mia's smile appeared first, soft as frosting, then her eyes, sharp enough to slice glass. "I thought I heard someone," she said as I stood. "Just me," I said. "Wanted something of Mom's." I held up the watch. Her gaze flicked from my face to the safe, then back. Too quick for an untrained eye, but I caught it. You should have asked. No need to sneak. I still have a key, I reminded her. Not for long. Her smile stayed, but the sentence clinked like chains. Behind her, my father's heavier steps entered. He looked from her to me, then at the watch in my hand. Lex, why? Because it's mine, I said. Then, before I could stop myself, not hers. The silence that fell was suffocating. Mia didn't flinch, didn't even blink. She just slid an arm through his and said, "She's upset, darling. She'll come around." I walked out before the walls could hear more, but as I passed the front hall mirror, I caught sight of Mia watching me leave, her lips curling not into a smile, but something darker. That night, at my mansion, I spread the photos of the prenup across the island. Proof. Hard ink and signatures. The clause about gifts, the separation of property, my name, Mom's initials. It all hummed with truth. But truth without timing is useless. If I went to my father now, he'd call it manipulation. If I went public now, Mia would spin it as greed. No, revenge needed a stage. And then, as if fate wanted to help me write my script, an invitation slid into my inbox. Stanton Advisors, exclusive client appreciation dinner. Saturday, 7 p.m., RSVP required. A gala. A perfect stage. Still, I needed more than documents. I needed voices, receipts. I drove back to the tan office park the next morning, parked far away, and waited. At 9:14 a.m., a tall man in a navy suit walked into Suite 201 carrying a leather briefcase. Stanton's man, the one with the smooth voice from the recording. I followed him inside the lobby, pretended to be lost, and listened. "The wire transfers are lined up. She caves, it's done," he told the receptionist. "Which she?" the receptionist asked. He smirked. "The daughter, the pretty one, with the big payout. They always cave." I turned and walked out before my rage could out itself, but I had what I needed. Another voice, another witness. I typed notes immediately. Time, date, description, words. That afternoon, the unknown number pinged again. "You found the prenup. Good. Don't reveal yet. Saturday is the day. Wear black." I stared at the screen. Whoever this was, they weren't guessing. They knew. I replied, "Who are you?"
This time, an answer came. "Your mother's friend. She asked me once to protect you if anything happened. I couldn't save her. I can save you." I wanted to throw the phone, but instead I texted back. "Then help me end her." 3 dots. Then, "Bring the recording. Bring the prenup photos. Saturday, 7 p.m., Stanton's dinner." Saturday came fast. I dressed in black silk, hair pinned, phone hidden in my clutch with the recordings cued. My chest felt like glass, but my face wore steel. The hotel ballroom glowed with chandeliers. Tables for 12 gleamed with cutlery polished like mirrors. And at the center, under a banner that read, "Celebrating Partnership," stood Mia, draped in gold, hand on my father's arm, smiling like she owned every person in the room. I slid into a seat near the back, close to the stage. Waiters glided. Champagne popped. The program began. Introductions, speeches, handshakes. My father looked stiff, like he'd been rehearsed into silence. Halfway through, the smooth-voiced man took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, at Stanton Advisors, we believe in family, in protection, in building legacies." I recorded every word. Then Mia stood, tugged my father with her, and leaned into the mic. "And tonight, we're announcing our next chapter, a new family estate built with love and vision. It will stand as our legacy for generations.
The audience clapped. Cameras flashed. And in that exact second, I rose from my chair. "Funny," I said, loudly enough for the mic to catch. Heads turned. I lifted my phone, screen glowing with the prenup photo. Because, according to this, the only estate that stands is the one my mother protected, and it's mine. Gasps rippled. My father blinked. Mia's smile froze. But I wasn't done. I hit play on the recording from Suite 201. Her voice, soft and certain, filled the ballroom. "She's emotional, but she'll pay. She always does." Silence. Then a whisper from the back. "Did she just say that?" I let the next clip roll. The man's voice. "If she wires it to Stanton, we route it, and there's nothing to claw back." The audience shifted. Some pulled out phones. Others stared. My father's face drained of color. "Mia, what is this?" She tried to laugh. "Deep fakes! Lies! Alexia, you're cruel!" But then, my twist. I tapped one more file. Her voice again. "The prenup? Destroyed." And the screen lit with the photo of the actual document, Mom's initials bright and blue. The ballroom erupted. Cameras pointed. People shouted. And my father? My father stumbled back from her touch like her skin burned. Mia dropped the mic. The sound cracked through the room. Then she ran. I followed her. Out into the marble lobby, heels echoing. She spun on me. Eyes no longer soft. Voice no longer honey. "You don't understand, Alexia. He was going to give it to me anyway. I just sped it up." "I stole from you," I hissed. "I built a future," she snapped. "One your mother never gave him. You think you're saving him? You're destroying him. He can't survive alone." "He's not alone," I said. "He has me." Her face twisted. "You're nothing but a spoiled brat playing hero with mommy's money." I lifted my phone. "This brat just ruined you." She lunged. For my clutch, for the phone. Security intercepted her mid-swipe, wrestled her arms behind her back. Guests crowded the doorway, filming. And as they dragged her out, she screamed one last thing. Words that burned through me like acid. "You don't know who you're really fighting." The police took her that night. Fraud. Forgery. Conspiracy. The gala turned into a scandal, every headline dripping with shock. Wealthy widow accused of defrauding stepdaughter. But it wasn't over. Because the next morning, as sunlight cut across my mansion's windows, another message came from the unknown number. She was just the front. The real one is still out there. Look deeper into Stanton. My blood iced. I thought I'd won, but the war had just moved up a level. By sunrise, the headlines had already hardened into judgment. Strangers in the comments called me spoiled, vindictive, cruel. My favorite was trust fund vigilante, which made me laugh out loud, because the only trust I'd ever had was the one I built in myself. Still, the noise burrowed under my skin. I turned my phone face down and opened my laptop. If the unknown texter said Stanton Advisors was the real machine, then today I would learn its gears. I started where predators forget to clean. Metadata. The gala invite had been a glossy PDF, but whoever exported it didn't strip properties. The author field said VM_Hale, and the software listed an outdated version of Acrobat on a Windows tower. Hale! I searched the California Business Registry for Hale plus Stanton and found nothing. But when I searched for the email domain, a different entity surfaced. Hale Strategic Holdings, LLC, formed 7 years ago, manager listed as Victor M. Hale, agent of service a firm that promised maximum discretion. Stanton Advisors, it turned out, wasn't a corporation at all. It was a DBA tucked under Hale's holding company like a blade under a glove. I copied the filing number, then cross-referenced the address. Same tan building. Different suite. Suite 405. I zoomed in on Google Street View and stared at 4 floors of beige anonymity that had been hiding a factory for years. My email chimed. A note from the unknown number, this time from an actual address. emberpost@proton.eu. The subject line read, "You're close. Don't spook him." The body, Hale uses 3 banks and 1 trust company offshore. Start with routing number 121-00358. Watch for repeats across contractors. Do not call him. He loves a fight you can't win in private. The number tickled the back of my brain. I combed my spreadsheet of Mia's vendors and felt a cold satisfaction when the same routing number appeared on 4 different invoices to different names. The kitchen consultant, the expedite fee, the estate architect. All unique logos, all fun fonts, all the same river. I called Priya. We met at a caffeine-scented hole-in-the-wall that doesn't play music and knows my order. Priya's a forensic accountant who wears her hair in a bun like a weapon and smiles only when someone tells the truth by accident. She slid into the booth, eyed my sleepless face, and said, "You finally decided to use me." "I was busy buying a house out of spite," I said. "That tracks." She flipped my laptop toward her and scanned the spreadsheet. "This is a waterfall, Alexia. The money falls into the same canyon no matter how many little tributaries they draw on the map." She tapped the routing number. "This one belongs to a clearinghouse. The account numbers matter more. Give me the raw PDFs, not just your screenshots." "I have both," I said, triumph tasting like the first warm sip. "And a prenup." "Whose?" "Dad and Mia's." She said it was destroyed. Priya's mouth made the shape of a smirk. "Then your mid-game is control, not proof. Public's already with you after last night. Hale won't sue first. He'll isolate first." "Who?" "You," she said simply. "He'll try to freeze your accounts, smother you in emergency motions, get a judge on duty to sign something fast because words like elder abuse and undue influence make pens move. He'll also try to turn your father into a legal shield." "My father wouldn't." Priya raised one eyebrow. "Your father would do what the last person he trusted told him to do." It landed like a slap because it was true. I loved him. That didn't make him brave. "Okay," I said. "Then we outrun the paperwork." "Or outstage it," Priya said. "You do tech. You understand network effects. Start building your own. A paper trail can be a wall, and it can be a door." "I'm not posting my bank statements on TikTok," Priya snorted. "I'm saying witnesses, time-stamped emails to neutral parties, certified mail to your father with the prenup pages circled in cheerful highlighter, a letter to Hale demanding preservation of all communications. And one more thing. Get a lawyer before he gets you a guardian." "A guardian?" I repeated, heat flooding my ears. "Conservatorship light. Guardianship of an elder. If he paints you as manipulative, daughter who just humiliated his sweet wife, now controlling access, a judge could be convinced to appoint a neutral third party. And a neutral is whoever Hale recommends." I wanted to put my fist through something. Instead, I stirred sugar into a coffee I wouldn't drink and said, "Who do you trust?" "Priya," said without hesitation. "Litigator. Mean when needed. Loves daughters." I texted June from the cafe with a subject line that would make any lawyer sit up. Urgent. Fraudulent asset routing, elder manipulation, and forged paper trail. She responded before the caffeine could cool. "My office. Moon. Bring everything." On my way out, my phone buzzed with a call from Dad. I answered on the second ring, ready to meet him where he was, confused, ashamed, pulled between storms. "Lex," he said, and the single syllable sounded older than yesterday. "How could you—" "Dad," I said softly, "have you eaten?" A beat. "No." "I'll meet you at Pete's Diner in an hour. I'll bring pancakes and something you need to see." "I'm not hungry," he murmured. You never are until the plate lands. I used muscle memory from childhood. 1 hour. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He hung up like a man who had used up all his choices. June's office had the kind of clean angles that make judges feel safe. She didn't waste a second. She read, she underlined, she winced at the word destroyed, next to prenup, and then she looked up, eyes like tempered glass. We're not going to court yet. I thought we should strike well. No. Hale's playbook is speed. Ours is sequence. We draft a preservation letter to Hale and his shell entities. We file a quiet notice to the court requesting a status conference regarding potential fraudulent conveyance. Note the word potential. Judges love it. And we serve your father with a cheerful, non-confrontational packet. Photos of the prenup, a letter that says you love him, and a request that he pick his own independent counsel to review any document he's been asked to sign in the past 3 months. What if he refuses? Then he refuses. June's mouth softened. But he will do it in writing, and we will staple that refusal to God and everybody. What about my accounts? If he tries... June slid a single page across the desk. We change your banking posture. Separate institutions, no automatic linkages. I'll have you place fraud alerts without theatrics, and you will not text Hale. You will CC me on anything sent to anyone who uses the word Stanton. Predators love to drag you into side channels where rage is expensive. Understood. I exhaled and felt, for the first time in days, held by an adult who wasn't pretending. At 1:12 p.m., I slid into a booth at Pete's Diner with a paper bag that smelled like syrup and survival. My father sat across from me in a windbreaker he'd owned since I was in braces. He looked at the bag, not at me. Blueberry, I said, like Saturdays, remember? He shook his head, then reached anyway, fingers clumsy. We ate in silence for a minute that felt like a life we could have had. Then I placed a manila envelope on the table and pulled out the photos of the prenup. I didn't narrate. I let him read. His hands trembled on page 3. When he reached the clause about my assets, he swallowed hard. I didn't, then stopped because the truth was too simple. He hadn't read it. He had signed where a pen was put and smiled where a camera lived. Mia said it was gone, he whispered.
She lies like other people breathe, I said gently. And Dad, there's more. She and a man named Victor Hale have been routing money through fake contractors. The routing numbers match. The bank accounts match. They were trying to move $4 million through me and then make it unrecoverable. He pressed his thumb and forefinger to his eyes the way he does when a headache starts. The veins on the back of his hand looked like rivers on a map. I didn't mean... I never wanted... Lex, I thought she loved me. I think she loved the idea of never worrying again, I said. It came out kinder than I felt. The bell above the diner door rang. Instinct turned my head. A man in a navy suit, different from last night's, same expensive arrogance, stepped in, scanned the room, and found us like he'd always known we'd be here. He smiled as if introduced. Mr. Calder? Miss Calder. Victor Hale. My father flinched. I didn't. You're trespassing, I said. It's a public restaurant, he replied, crisp, amused. And I'm here in a spirit of de-escalation. No need to posture, Alexia. You've had your little scene. Little scenes trend for weeks, I said. You should know that, given your business model. He laughed with his eyes, not his mouth. We help families preserve wealth. You help yourself, and you do it through women who think compassion is a trick. The waitress, bless her mortal courage, materialized between us with water glasses like shields. We don't do scenes, she said, polite but firm. You need a table, sir? I was just leaving, Hale said, but he didn't move. He placed a glossy folder on our table with 2 fingers.
for Mr. Calder. Drafts to correct certain misunderstandings created by last night's unfortunate outburst. Review at your leisure with new counsel. I've taken the liberty of scheduling an appointment for you this afternoon. My father won't sign anything without independent counsel of his choosing, I said. We've already retained June Ybarra. He tilted his head. Ah, June. So the claws are out. His gaze slid to my father. You should know that any undue influence from your daughter will be scrupulously addressed by the court, sir. Elder law is precise. The threat was surgical. I smiled like it was funny. See you in public, Victor. His eyes chilled from blue to blade. No, Miss Calder. You will see me in chambers. He left. The bell rang again, and with it went the room's oxygen. My father sagged back into the booth. Lex, I think I made a terrible mistake. I folded his fingers into mine like I had when I was small and scared of thunder. We're going to fix it. I walked him to his car and watched him drive slower than usual, as if each block required negotiation. Then I opened Hale's folder in the parking lot because I wanted to see what poison looked like when it wore a tie. The documents were exactly what Priya predicted. A declaration that I had coerced my father into public humiliation, a proposed temporary protective order limiting my contact, and a draft petition for a neutral financial conservator to safeguard Mr. Calder's assets during this turbulent time. Neutral, safeguard, turbulent. Words that drink truth and spit out theater. I scanned the QR code at the bottom out of morbid curiosity. It led to a portal that allowed e-signature. No login, no two-factor, just a button that said, click to agree, and a footer that said, powered by Stanton. When I looked up, a gray sedan I didn't recognize idled 3 rows over, engine humming like a wasp. The driver stared at me through tinted glass. I lifted my phone, and the sedan rolled forward like a shrug, then glided out to the street. My scalp prickled. I texted the license plate to June with a caption. Friend of Hale's? She replied, assume yes. Home with a friend tonight. Alarm on. At home, I set the alarm to angry. The house, which had felt like a cathedral last night, now felt like a fortress under test. I forwarded Hale's folder to June and Priya, then opened my email to find 27 messages from strangers offering help and 7 from media outlets offering money. I archived the noise and opened an email from Ember Post. He will file ex parte. They always do. You will be served late, so you cannot prepare. Have counsel on standby and your own petition ready. Request court to appoint independent counsel for your father. Request preservation order. Request admonition for contact without counsel. Also, look into your father's safe deposit box. Not the safe, the box. I wrote back, how do you know about the box? No answer. Another breadcrumb in a forest where I could feel someone breathing who didn't want to be seen. I called my aunt. She answered on the second ring. I told her about the diner, about Hale, about the folder and the sedan and the warning. She listened with that quiet my mother's family carries, the kind that makes room for grief without letting it redecorate the house. Your mother hated secrets, but she also knew when to hold a card until the river. You're doing fine, baby. Go slow where they go fast. And if they come to your door, you do not open it with June on speaker. Okay. And that word felt like a blanket tucked under my chin. I drafted my own petitions with June on speaker, language that sounded like law and felt like armor. We filed them electronically to stamp the clock. Time is a weapon in court, and an electronic filing receipt can be a shield. Then I called the bank my father had used since I had a piggy bank and asked about safe deposit access. They confirmed the box existed and that only my father and one additional party were listed. Who's the additional party? I asked. Spouse, the teller said. Mia. Of course. Of course she was. I thanked the teller, hung up, and sat very still on the floor of my perfect kitchen, staring at the grout like it could answer me. What would be in that box? A copy of the prenup Mia thought she burned? Or something worse, something Hale could use to turn the whole game? The doorbell rang. I froze. It rang again, longer, insistently polite. I pulled up the camera. 2 men in khaki jackets stood on my stoop, holding clipboards like shields. One looked at the lens and lifted a packet toward it. The front page read, Superior Court of California in generous font. June's voice in my ear. Don't open. I pressed the intercom. Name and purpose.
Sheriff's Civil Division, the taller one said. We have papers for Alexia Calder. What papers? I said, though I knew. He angled the packet. Temporary restraining order glared back, and below it, in a box crueler than any paragraph, protected person, Michael Calder, my father. My stomach tried to crawl out of my body. You can slide them under the door, I said, voice steady in a way that felt borrowed from a braver woman. I am not opening. They exchanged a look that read, another crazy rich person with security, then slid the envelope through the gap. I watched their shadows retreat. I stared at the packet on my floor like it might sprout fangs. June's voice was low, precise. Take a breath. Read only the top page for now. We will handle this. I read the top page. It alleged that I had exhibited erratic behavior and publicly humiliated my father, that I had threatened to withhold funds necessary to secure his housing, and that I had stated an intent to isolate him from his support network. The declaration was signed by my father. Except, my father doesn't write the number 7 with a bar through it. The signature had one. I snapped a photo, sent it to June and Priya, and then, because I no longer believed in coincidence, to Ember Post with a single line. He doesn't write 7s like that. Do you know who does? The reply came fast enough to feel like someone had been waiting. Hale and Mia. The notary, too. Look at the stamp number. It's been used on 4 other cases this month. Same day, same judge on duty. He forum shops ex parte orders like coupons. June? I said. The notary stamp. I see it. This is sloppy. Sloppy is our friend. Paper rustled through the phone like an army assembling. We'll move to quash and request sanctions. Meanwhile, you will not contact your father directly. You will send one email to his personal address with mine CC'd, saying you love him and are complying with any lawful orders, and that you've requested a hearing to clarify. That's all. Okay. The doorbell rang a 3rd time. 3 short, sharp presses. Not the sheriff's. I checked the camera. Mia. No gold dress, no court face. She wore a sweatshirt and ponytail, 0 makeup, the disguise of a woman who wanted the world to mistake her for sincere. She leaned into the lens, eyes wide, and said, Alexia, please, let me talk to you. He's sick. Sick how? Headache? Confusion? He won't pick up for me now. I tried to fix this, she said, voice trembling with a talent I might have admired if I hadn't just seen her try to bankrupt me. Please, you're his daughter. He needs you. What hospital? I said, already moving toward my keys. No hospital, she said, and her gaze flicked sideways, betraying her. He's at home. The oldest lie in the world. Leave, I said, softly, and tell Victor I'll see him in open court. Her mouth twitched. For 1 microsecond, the mask slipped and I saw the metal underneath. You think you're on the right side because you have the internet, but the court is just rooms, and rooms belong to men like Victor. Then we'll drag the room into the light. And I hit the intercom off. She didn't move. She stood there for a full 10 seconds, letting the camera record a face that has never once blushed for shame. Then she turned and walked down my steps with the calm of someone who has never believed a door could stay close to her. When she was gone, I slid down the inside of my own door and let my head rest against wood.
I thought of 12-year-old me, frosting cookies with my mother, hands sticky with sugar, tongues blue with food coloring, my mother humming the chorus of a song I can never remember until I hear it. I thought of my father signing where someone told him to sign, thinking he was buying a future when he was selling a map to his heart. I thought of Hale's laugh without a mouth. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A calendar alert I didn't set. Safe deposit, tomorrow, 10 a.m. The location was my father's bank. The invite came from a throwaway Gmail that looked like a keyboard malfunction. I should have been spooked. Instead, I felt a wire go taut inside me. Fine. Tomorrow at 10 then. I would not open the box. I would watch who did. Before bed, I walked the perimeter of the house, palms grazing cool glass, checking locks like a ritual. I armed the system, I placed my phone and a spare battery on the nightstand, and I wrote my father the email June instructed, each sentence gentle and clean, every word a bridge I refused to burn. At 11:52 p.m., the motion camera at my front gate caught the gray sedan creeping by again. Lights off, predatory patient. I snapped a still and sent it to June and Priya. Instead of fear, I felt focus, the way I do when I'm about to ship a product on a deadline and anyone who tries to change the roadmap will be told to go chew on a cord. Just after midnight, when the house had settled into its own breaths and my eyes had started to sand themselves closed, a new email slid into my inbox with no subject line and a single attachment, vid.0413.move. The sender field was empty. The preview frame was my father's study. I tapped play with a thumb that didn't feel like my own and watched a grainy night vision clip. My father at his desk, Hale opposite him, papers fanned, Mia hovering like a quiet shadow. Hale slid a document forward and guided my father's hand, with 2 fingers on his wrist, gentle as a lover, efficient as a thief. My father signed. Mia leaned in and pressed a kiss to his temple like a mint on a hotel pillow. The date stamp in the corner was last week at 1:07 a.m. My lungs forgot how air worked. I scrubbed the timeline back and watched again, slower, looking for any detail that could turn into a lever. There, on the desk's edge, visible for 2 frames, a checkbook with a routing number and account number clearly legible in the ghost light. I froze the frame and snapped a photo, then cross-checked the routing against my spreadsheet. The same! The same damn river! I sent the video to June with the subject emergency and to Priya with pull routing. Then I watched a 3rd time and noticed something else. Something that made the bottom drop out of me, like an elevator. The last page my father signed had the header, Durable Power of Attorney. It wasn't just money. They had tried to become him.
I didn't sleep that night. The clip played on repeat in my head. My father, guided like a puppet, scrawling his name across a document that stripped him of himself. Durable Power of Attorney. The words nod. They didn't just want my father's money. They wanted his identity, his signature as a skeleton key. By morning, my inbox throbbed with replies. Priya had traced the checkbook numbers, same Hale network, same laundering pattern. June's email was sharper. This video is gold, but must be authenticated. Don't leak. Bring it to me. We can request forensic verification and file for an emergency injunction. I stared at my father's trembling hand in that still frame and felt guilt eat through my ribs. He wasn't the villain. He was collateral, and Mia had wrapped herself around him so tightly that he couldn't see where she ended and he began. But guilt wasn't useful. Strategy was. At 9:30 a.m., I parked across from the bank. My phone buzzed with the calendar alert again. Safe deposit, 10 a.m. I had no idea who said it, only that I was expected. The sedan was already there. Gray, predatory, patient. I pulled my cap low, set my phone to record, and watched.
At 9:58, Mia arrived. Alone. She walked like a woman late for brunch, not like a thief with a clock ticking over her head. I followed 30 seconds behind, heart hammering, palms slick. From the lobby couch, I had the perfect view of the vault hallway. Mia signed at the ledger, slipped behind the heavy door, and vanished. My stomach curled. Minutes later, she emerged carrying nothing visible, but her bag sagged heavier on one side. She didn't look at me, but I felt her see me, like two predators acknowledging territory. When she left, I walked to the counter. My father has a box here, Michael Calder. I'm on his account. The teller checked the screen, frowned, then brightened like she'd been given a script. I'm sorry, Miss Calder, but this morning an updated authorization was filed. You're no longer listed. My blood chilled. Updated how? I can't disclose details without your father present. I nodded, smiled tightly, and left, my phone burning in my hand. Updated authorization. Of course. The power of attorney gave them that. The box was theirs now. Outside, I trailed Mia's car long enough to see where she went. Not home, not Hale's office, but a storage facility on the edge of town. She punched a code, disappeared behind the roll-up gate. My phone buzzed. Another email from Ember Post. Unit 212. Paper trail. Get it before he does. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. I could break in, or I could wait. Both felt like traps. That afternoon, I met June in her office. She had the video projected on a screen, looping my father's coerced signature. A forensic guy with salt and pepper hair sat across the table, nodding. Authentic. Timestamp checks out, audio's clean. This will hold. June leaned forward. Here's the move. Emergency petition to freeze all actions under that power of attorney until capacity is evaluated. We argue duress, we file affidavits about your father's vulnerability, and we subpoena Hale's entities for discovery. And the box, I asked. She exhaled. If Mia pulled something, we'll compel an inventory. But if Hale knows you're watching, he'll relocate. You need a witness who isn't you. I thought of the email. Unit 212. Paper trail. Get it before he does. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. I could break in, or I could wait. Both felt like traps. That night, I drove to the storage unit in black jeans and adrenaline. I parked far back, pulled my hoodie tight, and waited until the facility's gate clanged closed behind another car. Then I slipped in through the pedestrian door while it latched. Unit 212 was halfway down the second row. I crouched, listened. Silence, but for the hum of sodium lights. My lockpick set felt like fire in my palm. 3 minutes, 2 false starts, 1 satisfying click. The door rolled up slow. Inside were cardboard towers. Neat, labeled. Consultants, inspections, retainers. I sliced one open with my keys. Inside weren't invoices, but receipts, copies. Hundreds, all with routing numbers, each one a breadcrumb in Hale's network. At the back, a fireproof chest. I crouched, heart racing. It wasn't locked, just latched. I flipped it open. Inside was a stack of photographs. My father. At desks, in diners, in hallways. Always with Mia. Always with Hale in the periphery. Surveillance. Months deep. And in the middle of the stack, a photo of me leaving my apartment 6 weeks ago, phone to my ear. My throat closed. I nearly dropped the pile when headlights washed across the unit wall. A car. Door slam. Footsteps. I shoved the photos back, pulled the chest closed, and ducked behind the boxes. The roll-up door rattled. A beam of light swept inside. Unit 212, a man's voice muttered. Not Hale's. Lower, rougher. The flashlight moved across the boxes, stopped on the fireproof chest. My lungs begged to gasp. Then, footsteps retreating. The door clanged shut. Silence. I counted to 50 before moving. My legs shook as I slipped out, heart slamming. Whoever he was, he hadn't searched. He'd just checked. Back in my car, I pulled out my phone. A new text from Ember Post glowed on the screen. Now you know. They've been watching all of you. Don't go back. Wait for the gala of filings. Bring proof. I drove home with the photos burned into my brain. My father hollow-eyed, me unaware, and Mia smiling in every frame like a woman certain the camera loved her. The next morning, the paper's June filed landed us a hearing. 48 hours. Just enough time for Hale to maneuver. And maneuver he did. By noon, my inbox filled with notices, media requests, court subpoenas, even a wellness check from Adult Protective Services, courtesy of an anonymous complaint that I was isolating my father. Hale's fingerprints all over it. At 3 o'clock, Dad called. His voice was weak. Lex, they said I need to stay with Mia until this is over. Please don't make it harder.
The words cracked me. Dad, listen, she's lying. I have proof. You just need to... Enough, his voice surged, breaking like brittle wood. I can't do this, Lex. You're tearing us apart. The line went dead. I sat on the floor, knees to chest, phone limp in my hand. For the first time since this began, doubt slithered in. What if Hale was right? What if the courtrooms were his? What if dragging everything into the light just made me the villain in everyone else's story? Then I opened my laptop, watched the video again, saw Hale's hand on my father's wrist, saw Mia's kiss on his temple, and I remembered why I bought the mansion. Not for walls, for leverage, for proof that I wasn't a pawn in their game. So I called June, my voice steady now. We don't just fight, we expose. In public. Good, because Hale just filed his own motion, and he demanded an emergency closed hearing. If we don't break that open, no one will ever see what he's doing. The words slid like steel into my spine. I knew then that the next round wouldn't be in quiet offices or storage units. It would be in a courtroom where I would tear the mask off Stanton advisors in front of anyone who could still feel outrage. 2 days later, the courthouse buzzed like a hive. Reporters hovered near the steps, cameras ready. Hale wanted a closed-door ambush. June had countered with a motion to open proceedings, arguing that secrecy served only fraud. The judge, pressured by flashing bulbs outside, agreed. We were going public. Inside, the courtroom felt colder than the weather outside. My father sat at the respondents' table, Mia pressed against his shoulder like a porcelain doll. Hale stood tall, suit cut razor sharp, papers stacked with surgical precision. He looked at me once, a flicker of amusement in his eyes, then turned away as if I were already dismissed. The bailiff called the case. The judge, silver-haired and stone-faced, adjusted his glasses. We're here regarding competing motions. Temporary protective orders filed by Stanton advisors on behalf of Mr. Calder, and cross motions filed by Miss Calder regarding fraud and duress. Hale rose first. Your Honor, this is a tragic case of an adult child lashing out against her father's happiness. She has publicly humiliated him, obstructed his financial planning, and isolated him under the guise of concern. We ask only that the court protect Mr. Calder from undue influence. He said it so smoothly that for a moment I almost believed it. Almost. Then June stood. No theatrics,
just truth. Your Honor, we're not here because of family drama. We're here because of fraud. Because Mr. Calder was manipulated into signing away control of his life in the middle of the night. Because entities tied to Stanton Advisors have been siphoning money through shell accounts with routing numbers that all point to the same clearinghouse. She clicked a remote. On the screen behind her, the first slide appeared. Mia's contractor invoices, side by side, each with the identical routing number highlighted in yellow. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Hale's jaw flexed. Furthermore, June continued, we have video evidence. She tapped again. The clip rolled. My father at his desk, Hale's hand on his wrist, Mia hovering like a crow, his signature scratched under durable power of attorney. The room shifted. Even the judge leaned forward. Play it again, he said. It replayed slower, the pressure of Hale's fingers undeniable. Mia whispered fiercely into my father's ear. His shoulders hunched. He stared at the desk, not the screen. June let the silence hang, then spoke softly. This is not protection. This is predation. The judge turned to Hale. Do you deny this recording's authenticity? Hale's mouth tightened. We question the source. Deepfakes are common. Already authenticated, June incaroned. Forensic report filed this morning. Your Honor has a copy. The judge flipped a page in his binder. So I do. He looked at Hale over the rim of his glasses. Counselor, I don't appreciate being misled. Hale cleared his throat, regrouping. Even if authentic, the document was signed willingly. Then why at 1 a.m.? June asked. Why with Mr. Hale's hand guiding the pen? For once, Hale had no quick answer. My pulse pounded as June pulled out the prenup photos next. Additionally, the court should note that any attempt to commingle Miss Calder's assets into the scheme violates a valid prenuptial agreement, signed, notarized, preserved, and conveniently claimed destroyed by Mrs. Calder. She handed up copies. The judge scanned, frown deepening. Mrs. Calder, do you dispute your signature here? Mia's voice trembled, perfectly rehearsed. I don't recall. Those months were emotional. We were rushing to build a life together. The judge's eyes narrowed. You don't recall signing a document that governs millions of dollars? I trusted my husband, she whispered, tears shimmering. For a moment, sympathy threatened to sway the room. But then June dropped the final hammer. Your Honor, we also recovered surveillance photographs from a storage unit rented in Mrs. Calder's name. These include months of tracking both Mr. Calder and my client. This is not a wife protecting her husband. This is a conspiracy watching its prey. She handed up the photos. My father's image filled the room, hollow-eyed, shadowed by Hale, then mine, walking from my apartment, unaware. A ripple of outrage spread through the gallery. My father flinched when he saw the pictures. His voice cracked. Mia, what is this? Mia's mask slipped, just for a moment. Her mouth tightened, eyes flashing steel. Then she broke into sobs, clutching his arm. They're twisting everything. Victor said it was for our safety. Enough, the judge snapped. His gavel struck once, sharp. I've seen enough today. To freeze all authority under the contested power of attorney pending further review. Mr. Calder will be appointed independent counsel. Stanton Advisors will preserve all records. And, Mrs. Calder, his gaze cut through her tears, I strongly advise you to retain your own lawyer. Mia's sobs died instantly. Hale leaned close to her, whispering something I couldn't catch. Her jaw set. The gavel came down again. Hearing adjourned. Reporters swarmed outside, questions flying like arrows. June shielded me with her briefcase.
Priya texted me from across the crowd, "You won this round. Don't celebrate yet." And she was right, because as Hale slipped into his car, he looked back at me and his lips moved silently around 3 words I read as clearly as if he'd shouted them. This isn't over. That night, I sat in the great room, the mansion, city lights sprawling below. The victory tasted sharp, not sweet. Hale had been bruised but not broken, and predators who've tasted blood don't walk away. At 11:03 p.m., another email from Ember Post arrived. No greeting, no signature, just one line and an attachment. If you want to end him, open the file, but be ready. The last twist cuts deepest. The attachment was a PDF. Title, Stanton Advisors Client Ledger. And the first name on the list wasn't Mia. It was my father. The ledger glared at me from my screen. First entry, Michael Calder. Intake via grief group. Date? 3 weeks after my mother's funeral. It wasn't Mia first, it was my father. Hale had groomed him, then pulled Mia in a year later. My stomach turned. I called my aunt. "Did Dad meet anyone after my mom died?" She sighed. "A counselor offered to handle things. I told him to run. He said the man was kind." The ledger called it a referral success. An email pinged from Ember Post. "You see it now. Hale used your father before Mia. She was recruited later." I sent the file to June and Priya. Priya's reply, "He's not just a victim. He's the entry point. Get other families. Show a pattern." June added, "Do not leak. Subpoena. And have your dad meet you with independent counsel." I called Dad. "Please just meet me with your lawyer." He agreed. At June's office, his lawyer watched as I slid the ledger across. Dad read the line with his name and flinched. I thought I was protecting you. After your mother died, I couldn't breathe. A man said he would make it easy. I signed. I introduced him to Mia. I didn't know. I told him you weren't weak. They preyed on grief." June laid out next steps. Fraud alerts, no signatures without counsel, subpoenas for Hale's companies. Dad nodded, shaken, but clearer. Then June dropped the real twist. The DA just got an anonymous tip. Hale is paying grief counselors referral fees. If true, that's criminal. Of course, Ember Post again. That night, Priya and I called other families from the ledger. One daughter, Cora, answered, "My dad started signing bills with a stranger smiling next to him. Cupcakes, contracts, all at once. I thought I was crazy." By noon, we had 3 families willing to testify. Priya's charts looked like subway lines of fraud. June prepared declarations. Hale's office tried to bargain. Settle quietly, return to normalcy. But June hung up. At 6 p.m., Ember Post sent another message. "He's moving on the safe deposit box tonight. Truth about your mother is in there. Be early." Priya and I stacked out the bank. At 10:58, Dad walked in, fumbling with keys. A sleek car rolled in behind him. Hale. We slipped inside. Through the glass we saw Dad at the booth, Hale hovering. The box sat open. "Dad," I said. He jumped. Hale smiled. "Family errand," he said smoothly. Dad looked torn. Hale coaxed, "Remember your promises to your wife." "Which wife?"
Hale pulled out a sealed envelope, opened it, and began to read. His smirk froze after the first line. "Michael, if you're reading this, you've met a man who offers to make grief easy. Don't sign. His name is Victor. He is not a shepherd. He is a salesman." Silence. Hale's hand trembled. Dad whispered, "That's her. She wrote like that." I stepped forward. "Now we don't just have proof, we have her warning." Hale folded the letter. "It proves nothing." "It proves everything," Dad said, suddenly clear. "Victor Hale, you are not my advisor. Leave." For the first time, Hale faltered.
Then he slipped out, mask cracking. Dad and I opened the rest together. Wedding photo, old truck title, my mother's ring, and a second envelope with my name. I saved it for later. Back home, I read it. Her handwriting. Alexia, you were always the one who checked the locks twice. Keep doing that. Remind your father who he is. Pain isn't a problem to solve, it's something to carry. I cried until I laughed. Revenge wasn't just mine anymore, it was hers. At 2 a.m., Ember Post revealed herself. My name is Evelyn. I was your mother's nurse. She asked me to watch for you if this day came. Tomorrow, Hale would face the DA, and this time, the spotlight would burn. The morning after the safe deposit box, the DA's office confirmed they'd opened a consumer fraud investigation. Hale's name was officially under scrutiny, not just whispered in court filings. That was the crack I needed. June called at dawn. Press conference at noon. DA wants victims present. You, your father, and the other families. They'll use your story to push subpoenas wider. I looked at my mother's letter on the counter, her words still echoing. Remind him who he is. We'll be there. Outside the courthouse, cameras lined the steps. My father stood next to me, shoulders squared but trembling. Priya and Cora joined us holding folders of their father's ruined finances. The DA stepped up first. We are investigating Stanton Advisors and associated entities for fraud, elder exploitation, and money laundering. Today, we stand with families who've come forward. Then she gestured to me. Microphones thrust forward. My name is Alexia Calder. I'm 28. I bought a $4 million house not because I wanted luxury, but because I refused to let my father's life savings be stolen. Stanton Advisors preyed on him while he was grieving, then tried to use me as their final pipeline. They forged papers, manipulated signatures, and told me family loyalty meant silence. I'm here to say it doesn't. I pulled out the letter. The crowd hushed. Before she died, my mother wrote, "If you meet a man named Victor, don't sign anything." She saw him coming. She saw all of this, and now the world does too. Gasps rippled. Cameras flashed. My father's hand tightened on mine. Hale arrived minutes later, striding up the steps with a lawyer and a PR handler. Reporters swarmed him. Did you exploit grieving families? Is Stanton a shell company? He smiled like it was a cocktail party. Baseless allegations. This is a daughter seeking attention at her father's expense. The DA stepped forward. Mr. Hale, would you care to comment on the ledger we seized yesterday? She held up a copy. His smile faltered. Reporters shouted louder. Hale waved his handler closer, then turned sharply and stormed back down the steps, cameras chasing. My father whispered, "He's scared." "No," I corrected, voice steady. "He's cornered." That evening, we got word. The DA's office froze multiple Stanton accounts. Investigators raided the tan office building. Priya texted a photo of boxes being carried out, stamped evidence. But the fight wasn't done. Hale's lawyers filed a counterattack, alleging I had defamed Stanton, scaring away legitimate clients. They demanded damages. June smirked when she read it. Desperation. We'll crush it. Still, the thought gnawed. He wasn't finished until he lost in front of everyone. The next day, Evelyn, Ember Post, finally stepped from the shadows. She was older, calm, with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. She hugged me like my mother would have. She trusted you'd find your voice. Now make sure the court hears it. Together, we walked into the preliminary hearing, where Hale had to face the DA, the judge, and a gallery packed with press. This was no longer just my revenge. It was every daughter's. And I was ready. The courthouse was packed for the hearing. Every seat filled, cameras outside, reporters waiting for sound bites. Hale walked in first, surrounded by lawyers. He still wore confidence like a suit, but up close, I could see the cracks. Twitching jaw, darting eyes. The DA opened with the video of Hale guiding my father's hand. Then the ledger.
Then testimony from Cora and the other families. Each story painted the same pattern. Grief turned into profit.
Finally, it was my turn. I stood, palms steady. My father is not weak. He was grieving. Hale saw that grief and called it an opportunity. He used Mia to finish what he started. He thought I'd sign away my life too. But instead, I bought a house, my house, to stop him, because the only thing worse than losing my mother would have been letting them erase my father. I held up the letter. The courtroom leaned in. My mother warned us about him before she died. She knew his name. She knew this moment would come. And today, we honor her by saying it out loud. Victor Hale is a predator, not a protector. The gallery erupted. The judge banged his gavel for silence, but even he couldn't hide the way his expression hardened at Hale. Hale's lawyer sputtered about deep fakes and overreach, but the evidence was a tidal wave. The judge ordered Stanton Advisors' accounts frozen, all operations suspended, and referred the case for criminal prosecution. As Hale was let out, he looked at me one last time. No smirk, just hate. And maybe, finally, fear. Afterward, outside the courthouse, cameras swarmed. I didn't speak. My father did. His voice shook, but he said the only words that mattered. I'm proud of my daughter. She saved me. Reporters shouted for more, but I guided him away. We didn't owe the world anything else. That night, in my mansion, we sat on the balcony with takeout cartons. No champagne, no speeches, just quiet, and the city lights sprawling like a new map. I read my mother's letter again. Pain isn't a problem to solve, it's something to carry. I finally understood. Revenge hadn't erased the pain. It had given it direction. Mia filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Hale was indicted on multiple counts of fraud and elder exploitation. The DA promised the case would set precedent. And me? I kept the house. Not as a trophy, but as proof that I could draw a line and defend it. Proof that I could stop the cycle for the next daughter. If this was your life, would you have fought back the way I did or walked away? Tell me in the comments and let me know which city you're listening from. I love seeing where my listeners are watching from. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you want more real-life revenge stories like this one.